Welcome to the Andrew D'Angelo podcast.
Constant Constance. Each week, Andrew, renowned jazz saxophonist and brain cancer survivor, invites us to look at the many worlds of his guests, with conversations that cover all the arts, human resilience, a little bit of politics, and a lot of humour.
You can't fail to have a fantastic time.
Yo, folks, we are here with, do you want to be Shareef or Snuggs?
Oh, either one, doesn't matter.
All right, we're here with Shareef, and I'm going to have Detective McGrath on my show, and I just wanted to see a perspective from Shareef on what he felt about the police and so forth.
Yeah, I know. I was saying to you that I agree with Jimmy Dore's point about cop culture. I also feel that not all cops who start out joining the force are bad. Some cops are bad, and they sign up because they want to go around shooting people. I do believe that there are people like that. I do, but I also agree there are cops who do join the force who actually want to do good. Just take case in point. Let's look at Serpico. Serpico left the country because due to the fact he wanted to do good things, and obviously he got booted. He had to be forced out of the police force, whether his doing or all the other people's doing, but he obviously left. But the cop culture forces you to behave like the other cops. So whether you agree with that point or not, or whether you are a part of them when you first come in, you are eventually going to do two things. Either you're going to join them, or you're going to be murdered. You're going to be removed somehow. Quit, retire, whatever. You're going to join that cop mentality. So reason why people get mad when people talk about all cops are bad or say that, I understand what they're talking about. They're talking about the culture. They're not necessarily talking about that one individual. Because I do believe there are cops. Some cops are good, but the point is they're not going to last long. They're going to either join with the rest of the mob mentality of the bad cops, or they're going to be booted off the force. They're going to do something else. They're going to go into being a bodyguard. They're going to go into Secret Service. They're going to go into the military. They're going to go be maybe a fireman. Maybe they do being a marshal. They're going to move from the system in place that cops are from, because people don't realize cops started out as being racial. In this country, the ruling class got cops to be slave catchers. They got cops to go after Native Americans, Black people, the other, so to speak. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So cops never worked on our behalf. Cops never, in this country, never started out serving what we'd like to believe, serving mankind, serving the working class. They served the ruling class. So if Amazon was around back during slavery time, that's who they would hire to make sure they don't strike. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and that's one thing, a lot of people don't realize, that law enforcement is not designed for us. It's designed for them. And if you understand that concept, whether or not that, if I wanted tomorrow wanted to sign up as being a Black person, as to be a law enforcer, being a cop, I would also have to fall in line or leave, because you don't have an option. You just don't. Think about it. If the cops were so good, or the culture-wise, not to my individual, I'm talking about the culture, was so good, they would be helping the protesters in any protest, but they don't. They help the ruling class. Just keep. I always like to tell people, keep that in mind. If cops are good, why are they not helping people make sure they get food, make sure they get water, make sure they get clothing, make sure they get housing, make sure they do it? If your job is to serve and protect the community, why aren't you helping people who are most vulnerable? So if you don't answer that question, if you don't ask that question, you're missing the argument of why people don't like cops. Because the number one thing that cops first thing to do is that they protect the corporate elites. They kept the ruling class. They never protect the working class. I've never been in a situation where I feel protected in my community by law enforcement. Never in my life. I'm always painted as being a criminal. I told my son, recently, because he wanted to be a cop, but I never directed him to go a different direction. He's seeing that now after the whole George Floyd thing. That's not a good idea. And I told him, I respect you more if you can join the military. I have no problem with our men in the uniform. I just have an issue. I have an issue with the cop culture. I don't have an issue with military. I don't have an issue with Air Force and stuff like that. And I'm maybe a little biased because they don't treat me with like the enemy. They treat me like an ally. But I know when they go elsewhere, they treat them like enemies, obviously with the whole Iraq war and things like that. But I just feel like men in uniform here in our country need to treat us like an ally, not an enemy. When cops walk the beat, you're an enemy. You're not someone they look to as someone they as an equal or anything like that. They look at you as someone they need to take out. They're on high alert all the time. They're already tensed up all the time. The number one people who are white beaters are cops. Why is that? That's crazy. That should just tell you right there.
Right.
That's kind of like the programming that they get they kind of lash out because of that. You know what I mean? They don't know how to deal with that. I even have friends of mine, and I know that cops are bullies. I bring that point too, is that I have friends of mine when I was, especially when I was younger, when they see a cop, they kind of like tense up because because they know cops are gonna fuck with them. And I was like, just calm down. If you kind of like let them do their thing, don't make yourself automatically look like you're up to something. They won't bother you, even though they are gonna fuck with you. Just kind of let them.
Yeah, but that's fucked up that you have to even have that thought, right?
No, for sure. Absolutely.
So if I'm, when Detective McGrath, the police officer, comes on the show, and I mean, what question would you ask him? Is he looking at you more suspicious because you're, a Black American, or is it on your side? Are you more paranoid? I don't know. I mean, I actually know the answer on my end, but I'm just curious. Like, what would you say to Danny McGrath, this detective from the NYPD? Like, what would you ask him? What would you want to know from him? And kindly, please. Mm-hmm. But if you want to get,
I would ask him simply. I would ask him, do you think the cop culture needs to be changed? And if he understood what I was talking about, I would know based on if he understood. I would cut, for me, if I was had a podcast interviewing him, I would say, do you think the cop culture should be changed? If he told me no, I would try to get the interview cut shorter. Let's say I had an hour with him, I would spend maybe like 20 minutes with him. Because I already know that if he believes that the cop culture is great and there's nothing wrong with it, then I would cut my time with him, because not to be like a douche or a dick or anything like that. If you're a person that thinks that the cop culture is fine in this country, me and you have a problem, and I don't want to talk to you. That's just me. So let's be the first question. Do you think there's a problem with the cop culture? Because that's being nice. That's just not even like attacking him or attacking anyone. I was asking him that, do you think the cop culture needs to be structured? And then based on that answer, I'll know where to take the interview. And then the next thing I would do you think cops should be defunded? And if you don't think cops should be defunded, those would be the two questions I would ask. The first question would be, do you think cop culture needs to be ratified? And do you think cops should be defunded? And if you don't, those two answers should give you a benchmark and let you know where he is. And if he answers the question, and again, not to be a dick and not to be biased, if he answers it, sure, cop culture needs to be ratified and be changed, then I would take it longer. And if he said yes, the cops should be defunded, then obviously me and him, our ideology is lined up. But every question, I would follow up with a question. Like if he said, once he answers, he says, no, I don't think so. I said, why do you think that? Everyone, why do you think that? It would go on further to hear him talk and get more from him. But those two questions would dominate the interview, because I would want to know, the rest of the country feels this way. Why don't you feel that way?
What if it's like this, Shareef? What if with Detective McGrath, what if he, and I'm just intuiting here, or my instinct or whatever, what if he says, yeah, the cops are pretty good. We catch the bad guys, we protect our neighbors, yeah, we're pretty good people. What if he goes that route? Then what do you do? I mean, do you dive in and go, come on, man, you guys are, racist fucking assholes and you're like serving the elite? Or do you just go, okay, cool. So
well, no, I would piggyback off the fact, I was like, yes, cops are important to our community to serve. No one doesn't want anyone to not have cops. I would say that full stop, because I believe that. If you ask any Black person in the community, no one really wants to get rid of cops. I don't care what they say. No one really wants that. That's not a thing. Okay. But what they do want is cops to, what people do want is to make them feel like you want to serve the community and not make them feel like they're a criminal. So if he said your cops are good and he kind of give the answers, come on, man, we serve and protect and do all these things. And so I'll follow up with that. Well, I was like, so if you feel that way, why do you feel that people kind of have like a negative slant on law enforcement? I would just kind of follow up with that. Because I want to dig into you. If you have that ideology, then what's the problem? Why is there a disconnect between cops and civilians? Where's that coming from? I would like to, him explain that, because I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable, but also try at the same time, I want him to understand that that is the argument people make. Why do you feel differently? You know what I mean?
Right. And so our friend, sorry, I can't say her name. Our friend asks, she said, even if you have Detective McGrath on, he can't speak the truth because he'll get fired. Well, so like he won't be able to actually be himself unless you put him, under a what do you call it? A voice, scrambler and stuff. He won't actually be able to speak his truth.
Well, he could in a way. It depends if he was a smart cop, not to be insulting to him, but to say that, yeah, sure, there are things that cops can do that can be better to better serve the community. He could say it that way. He could be very vague about it without like speaking truth to power. He could say, yeah, sure, there's nuanced ways we can actually help the community deal. There's always room for improvement. He can say things like that. He can have a very politician kind of answer.
Right.
You know what I mean? He can say, yeah. Sure. We can say that. So that helps the cops. It also helps the community of people who don't want to say anything negative about cops. Because I have a friend of mine who her dad is a cop and she gets mad when I talk about cops. But I tell her that I'm not talking about your dad. I'm just talking about cop culture. So you have to understand there's a difference. It's like saying like it's like me getting mad if someone talks about Amazon because I work there, because my girlfriend works at Amazon. And I say, Amazon does this to people. Don't talk about Amazon. I work there. Like, right. Okay, so that's whatever. So that's the truth, though. When we lie about it, I mean, come on.
Right. I mean, you're basically, you're a filmmaker. That's what you are. I mean, right. in my vision, you're a filmmaker. So all of these incidental, jobs or whatever is going on is just, until you get to that moment where, your film, whatever that film is people right. Like, oh, he's a filmmaker.
Right.
So, but it's interesting because I think that, for the most part, the cops, maybe politicians, maybe other people in higher up places, they don't see the bigger picture. They don't see you as an artist. They don't see me as an artist. They just see like, we're like, just do your job. We're like a pawn on a chess table or something like that. Just do your fucking job. And I'm like, I think we're better than that. And right. I am so tired of talking about police that I'd rather talk to a cop. Right. I want to talk to Danny McGrath. Detective McGrath. I want to hear what he has to say. And by the way, man, he will paint a picture. I won't have to do much. I'll just be, okay.
Right.
Yes, sir. All right. Fine.
Right. That's why I said those two questions kind of opens everything up.
Right.
Because you don't have to do anything. Those two questions says everything you need to know. I don't know how many questions you had or any ideas you had, but I just felt like, the two questions I would ask, do you think cops are overpaid? The cops get too much funding, and also to talk about cop culture. I think those are the two best arguments to talk about, only due to the fact that would let us know the conversation. Because I've had people say that, like people who say defund the police, they don't know. How do you know that cops give too much money? How do you know that? Where's your information? Where's your data to back?
Yeah, where are you getting the information from?
Right.
It's like somebody, for once, when somebody posts on social media, defund the cops, they get paid too much. I was like, just post something, some data, like, and so I'm like, why don't I just talk to a cop? Right. And it's a cop I've been working with. We have two thieves in the neighborhood, or we did, one white, one black, and they're both doing different things. They're stealing packages and garbage cans and all kinds of shit. And it's like, so I've been in contact. I actually caught them. I don't know why it was me, but I'm, been talking to Detective McGrath, and I'm like, I would just like to ask him,
Right.
Like, do you think you're overpaid? And he's going to say no because.
Well, no. What my argument is, when I say budget fund, when I say budgets that cops get, I don't mean salaries that the actual cops get on the street. I think they're underpaid. If you ask me personally, I don't think cops get enough money. But at the same time, I think that we do too much policing because cops the cop budget in New York City is $6 billion.
Wow.
I don't think people know that. It's $6 billion. He may not even know that either, but you can ask him that. You can look it up yourself. David Schroeder, he's a journalist. He brought that up.
I know him.
And and he brought that up. They get $6 billion, and that's because of the over policing of New York City. Because we believe that more police means safer, and that's not true. There's no data to prove that. Because cops are out there, we're a surveillance state. That's the issue. We're saying we're over militarized because again we want to make Americans feel safer, but that's just a signal to the American people who are not paying attention, who are the ones who are paying attention, that we're becoming more of a military state. And shut the hell up. If you do anything else, if you speak out of turn, we're coming for you. That's what that is.
Right.
That's exactly what that is.
I was in Argentina. I was in Buenos Aires playing the festival there, and it was great. But they had cameras up all over downtown Buenos Aires, and they also, all the cops kept their lights on, not their sirens, but and I was like, is there a crime going on? And he goes, no, the cops just want everybody to know that they're watching.
Right.
And
that's coming. That's coming now. That's coming.
You think
that's coming to the United States? That's coming to the U.S. for sure. That's coming.
I mean, isn't this a surveillance state? I mean, you and I with our phones, and I'm on my laptop now, and Nicole saying, you can't record this because But I was like, don't we kind of want everybody to know what we're talking about? This is good stuff. And no, turn off the recording. And then I asked you if I could turn it back on for this conversation, and you're like, cool.
Right.
But I mean, isn't this surveillance?
Well, the reason why Nicole's saying that, because she knows that if anything were to get out, obviously something can happen to her. Because I don't know if you heard about Australia. This woman got arrested off Facebook. She just said that she wanted to protest.
Yep.
And the cops came for her.
Yep. I know about it.
That's going to start happening here.
Okay.
And so that's where that whole, funding for cops are coming and the militarizer of the police force. That's why people say defund the police, because the cops should not be militarized.
Right.
Get that funding away. Put that money, if you're going to do something, put that money into cops' actual salary, then putting that into militarizing them, if that makes sense. Instead of giving them more ammunition, more gear, more things to police the street, lessen that budget, put that into use, like into that cop salary. Because cops don't get paid a lot. Let's be honest, they don't. They don't get paid a lot of money. I make close to what cops make yearly in New York City, which is like ridiculous. I make about 40, 45,000. Cops break that starting.
Right.
As a server. So that just tells you the value that they even have of the actual cop. So the problem is the system, not the cop itself. So it goes back to the cop culture. They want to divide us against them.
You think it's intentional? You think
Yes.
they actually want that? Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just asking.
100%. 100%.
It's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. No,
I was gonna say, you want a society that wants to work with our law enforcement, our fire department, our nurses, our doctors. You want a society that we all work together, not to be divided.
Right.
We don't want who wants a society where cops feel, and even us feel, I can't call a cop. If you ask people in my neighborhood, I used to live in East New York, they have a problem, they won't call a cop first.
I asked my ex-boyfriend, as I said earlier, who's a Peruvian first-generation immigrant, if somebody broke into his house, if he'd call the cops, and he said, fuck no.
Right. Everyone feels that way.
Really?
Yeah, people feel that way. Depending on what neighborhood you go to. Like, if you go to my old neighborhood, maybe the neighborhood of your ex-boyfriend, he feels that way. He probably has the same neighborhood that I used to have.
Right.
The first thing we're going to do is not call the cops. We're going to try to resolve the issue ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly, you nailed it, to be honest.
Because
you nailed it.
Because what the cops are not going to actually say and what you see in the media, what you actually see what happens, is a totally different story. Totally different story. And so that's the reason, is because cops automatically have this villainous kind of perception of like, what did you do for that to happen? Kind of attitude. You know, they automatically think that you're a criminal and that this is probably some like beef that you had with someone else. You know, versus like other friends of mine
that's
in the neighborhood they have. They think that, you know, they feel the number one thing is call the cops. Because cops are not going to vilify them as the other or the enemy. You know what I mean? You know, so that's why they feel that way. I don't want to call someone who thinks that, what did you do? What are you innocent? Why are you broken in your house?
It'd be like going to like white guy, you know, like analogy here, but it'd be like going to the store and like trying to buy something and they're being like, what'd you do wrong today? I mean, it feels like utter paranoia. Like, so what'd you do today that wasn't legal or something shit like this? I don't know. I'm just trying to I'm trying to bring what you're saying into a world where people are in denial. And if I do end up getting this cop on my show and being able to talk to him in a really, you know, a way that he can understand, not in a way that you understand, but in a way that I understand. So I'm like, you know, Officer McGrath, like, are you guys fucking racist? I can't say that. I can, but it's not going to help the cause. What's going to help the cause is be like, do you kind of think some people are naturally like doing something wrong already? Like before you even like,
right.
I'm just trying to paint a picture of me.
Well, and it goes back to the whole George Floyd situation of why a lot of people don't understand why the George Floyd situation was significant, was important. There's not a black person that I know that don't think George Floyd is a criminal. He is a criminal. No one's going to deny that he's a criminal. The problem is that cops feel that because he's a criminal, that they can do whatever they want to this actual person. They're using it as a cover of saying that this is how you take out a criminal. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be the law. You're supposed to be the example in that community, and you're not. And that's the problem. You're not setting a good example. So yes, George Floyd is the criminal, but we have a process, right? So we don't want to be the Wild Wild West. We don't want to be a society where we don't have rules and regulation and law. There's a due process, and cops feel they're above the law. That's how I personally feel. And the whole George Floyd situation got out of hand because here's a cop who took his privilege and took a man's life and justified it because he's a criminal. Okay, no shit, he's a criminal. But that's not how you handle criminals.
Right, you don't have to do that. I mean, all right, the guy's a criminal. You don't have to do that. I mean, you know.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to kill the motherfucker. I mean, you could
people are saying that, why are we celebrating a criminal? Why are we celebrating criminals in America? Why are we doing that? That's how they spin it. That's how they spin the story.
Yep.
And they're missing the point. It's not about we're celebrating criminals. We're saying that cops do that to black people regardless if he's a criminal. We're showing solidarity because that kind of shit has to stop. So regardless,
I know people who are black and brown, whatever, and you know they're in prison just because they had weed on them. It's fucked up. They didn't. Okay, they're criminals. They were carrying an illegal substance, but it's weed. I mean, really?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Absolutely. Happens all the time. I had people tell me that, Breonna Taylor, boyfriend was a drug dealer, obviously, and they were saying that, like she was also helping him and stuff like that. I was like, okay, and? Yeah,
right. And so
even if that's true, that's irrelevant. And then they wasn't asleep. They shot first. I was like, first of all, A, there's no evidence of that. And B, even if there is evidence of that, them firing, relentlessly, bullets blazing, firing off the place is the reason why she's celebrated, because the cops handled the situation unlawful. There's nothing about how they handled the situation. Excuse me.
Sorry.
that seems just and seems rational in a civilized society. And so when we come out to support this, and I try to explain it to people, it was like, why these two situations got magnified? And that's I'm explaining to you why. These killings are no different than any other killings that happened that's been going on. The reason why, excuse me. Well, thank you. The reason why they got so much media attention is because Black people and tired of this situation happening, but also too now you get on camera and the world can see his proof, his evidence of what we've been saying. And that's the problem. Right. People have been saying that for so long. Cops don't do this. Cops don't do that. Cops are innocent. Blah, 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 blah. These are just Black people just doing wrong shit again.
It's not
right.
true.
Right. And now we have evidence.
Fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at it. I'm just laughing at the ridiculousness of the fact that we, over the last, 200 years or whatever, we haven't been able to see this shit. And now people can hold their phone up, and like film. And we're like, oh, okay, then. So this is happening. And,
a lot of cops covered their recorder in the street.
Their body cam or whatever.
They hide their body cams.
Yeah.
Which is like we was told they said that the cops are not allowed to not hide their body cams anymore. I was like, okay, we'll see how well that works. I don't believe it, but okay.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody I'm wearing headphones, like if somebody just happens to, cover the body cam by accident with a tie or, a scarf, like, hey, I don't know, man, it's got covered. Right. But the reality is the thing that I want to extract from this, other than everything beautiful that you said, is that you, Shareef, and maybe you guys, you walk around like you see a cop, you're like, I might get busted for something. I don't know. I'm not doing anything wrong. And like, whereas me, when I was a kid coming up, I got caught drinking on the street, like a beer or whatever. And they're like, just move it along, it's okay. But like as a Black kid, they might be like, they might kill you or, whatever, something in between. And with me,
stop and frisk. Every Black kid will tell you stop and frisk was probably the worst era to be a Black kid in New York City.
And what?
The worst era, the stop and frisk.
Oh yeah,
and that was very prominent. That was just awful.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry about that shit.
Yeah, that was awful.
Gross.
Yeah. No.
But I guess I'm trying to understand, the reality that
there's no sympathy about it either, because like Bloomberg apologized for that a long time ago. He apologized already. All right. But he only apologized because the judge told him to. The judge told him to stop.
It was a court order.
Right.
And that is different than a real apology.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I apologize because they told me to.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I apologize, but I can't apologize, enough for the fact that, I know I've been busted like 3 times for weed, maybe, and drinking definitely on the street, beer. And cops are like, move it along. I was like that kid, the kid with the rifle. What's his name? That shot these people.
I know it's too.
Let's not mention his name because he's not worth the entertainment. Right. But like I know the cops be like, all right, well, just move along, Andrew.
Right.
But that's not the experience that you have. No. And Nicole's wife, Adam Cooper, he does not have that experience.
Right.
And it's like what? Like, I mean, I think we're all just seeing this happen kind of like a Broadway show. It's just like live, okay, all right. Oh, this just fucked up.
Right.
But the question is that I have, man, is like, what do we do? Like, is there a solution? I mean, Jimmy Dore is, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there is a solution. The problem is that I think corporate America and the lapdog politicians will fight against it. Because I think there is a way for the community at large can work in hand with cops. But the problem is that they don't want to. I really believe that. Easy solution.
Excuse me.
And it's not even a cost. It's not going to cost them anything. They just won't do it. And you can't say, how are we going to pay for it? That's the number one argument. They just
They're not
won't
going to do it. Yeah,
they won't do it.
No.
And the simple solution is that the community at large gets to hire cops. Full stop. Like, we actually be allowed to pick who could be sergeant, who could be a chief, who could be head of the unions. You know what I mean? We actually are part of that process. That don't cost anything. It just says that we're allowed to remove and hire a cop. Full stop. That's it. That's it. They'll never let that happen. It doesn't cost anything. It just says we can take a vote.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything. It's free. Absolutely free.
You're like, none of what you're suggesting costs anybody anything other than their energy, right? Like that's just it. Like your vote or your opinion or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't cost anybody, cost $1,000 to make this decision. No, we're just asking you to participate. That's it.
Right.
Like you and me here. We're just
there's not one person in my community. I can speak for everyone in East New York. I can speak for, I don't live in East New York now. Right now I'm staying with my aunt in Jackson Heights because of COVID. She can't really get around as much. So I have to do a lot of helping her around the house and stuff like that.
Cool.
But if you ask everyone in East New York to take a vote, just to vote on the idea, hey, if you are allowed to be part of the process of voting and for hiring a cop, would you be involved? There's not one person would say no. Right. Not one. Right. Not a one. Guarantee that. Not a one.
And so let's go back. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I said to be all for it. No, go ahead.
No, but I mean, it's going back to what we were talking about before we started this conversation, is that, leadership, and that's the whole thing. It's like moving forward and like, where's the momentum? And that, to me, that's what's missing. And I am not that person. I like doing this. I love talking to you. I love talking to my friend Nicole and Adam Cooper and my musician friends and, celebrities and stuff, having a good time. But we need somebody who's just out there. I mean, what? Even one thing too, that's one thing. And another thing too, that they'll never do, it won't cost them anything either, but they'll never do it. Hire cops who live in your community. That's all you have to do. I guarantee you, I promise you that. I would take the Pepsi challenge. I will bet any amount of money on any earth. That's that funny. It's good. But sorry.
If you hire a cop who lives in your community, right? So you can only hire cops in New York City. They're not allowed to live anywhere else, right? I guarantee you solve the problem. Because that cops kill a kid or kill someone, I know where you live. I know where your life lives. I know where your kids go to school at. I know where your aunt lives. I know where your grandmother lives. You live in my community. You live in my neighborhood. So I can come to your house, knock on your door, and why'd you do this? That solves the problem, right? It doesn't cost them nothing. All it says, from this day forward, if you live in New York City, you can be a cop. You can't live anywhere else. You can't drive anywhere else. You can't live in Long Island. You can't live in Westchester. You can't live in New Jersey. You have to live in the city. So if you do something wrong, I know where you live.
Right.
I find you. And you have to live, and you have to be and you can't live. And you, like, say if I, like, for the 13th precinct, whatever, that was in East New York. You have to live in that community. You can, and I would even narrow it down to, you can't be a cop outside of your district. You have to live in your district. Like, I would even argue that you can only have people serve their community. So literally, like, and people are like, oh, what if they don't have enough cops in that community? Great. Okay. That's due to the cops now not having more outreach. Reach out to your community and say, hey guys, we need more cops in my community. We need you to step up and join the force. I'll be for that. I'll be like, you have military go to schools and go to college campuses. I'll be for cops to say, hey, we're down 10% of our workforce. Can you guys sign up to be a cop? We need this. We need our community. Great. But you know what? That's not the problem. That's the always argument you always hear, because more policing is not the problem. The problem is that they don't want cops. They don't want people in their own community serving the community because they're afraid of quote unquote bias. No, what they're afraid of of as an uprising. What they're afraid of is people working together in solidarity. They don't want that. They don't want cops that, let's say my brother or my uncle or whoever was a cop to be in the community, because if I have an issue, I tell my brother, hey, there's a problem. They don't want cops speaking on behalf of the community, because you don't have that. That's what the problem is. They don't want that, because again, they want division. So we have the answer. The answer is here. We just don't want to do it. And it's a costly thing. That's free. $0. Zero.
The zero. This is just emotional. It's just energy. It's just
Right.
As I say, an exchange of energy. But right, it's like your aunt or your uncle or whoever. Like, what are you doing, Andrew?
Right.
What are you doing? I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm just like,
Imagine if you lived in your community, right? Imagine you live in your community, right? No matter where you live, right? Let's say of all of Midtown, right?
Right.
And let's say the precinct in Midtown, right? The cops there can only be hired unless you actually live in that area. How likely is someone going to harass you or bother you as a cop? Very slim. They probably don't do that anyway. But it'd be very, very slim. Why? Because it says, well, I know your mom. I know this person. I know that person. I don't want to, if I go to church on Sunday, I don't want the pastor or anyone else harassing me or bothering me. Why are you bothering this person? Because when you're too insular into your family or into your community, you're going to watch what you say. You're going to watch what you do, because you don't want to be bothered on a daily basis. You're going to check yourself. But when you have cops you've never seen before, you don't know who this person is, police in your community, you can say and do whatever you want because you don't have no backlash. No backlash. There's no social repercussions for what things you say and you do. There's none of that. So that's those are two problems that can be solved. You can keep the budget. If one of these people say don't defund the police, if they do those two things, right? The first thing, let people vote on who gets hired, who gets fired from the bottom up, and recruit people from their own community. I guarantee you, no one will complain about cops. Guaranteed, 100%. Wouldn't even happen.
That's the clip.
That would be a thing of the past. It'd be a thing of the past.
Right. So do you Shareef, just to, and it may seem lame, but just to understand my audience, when you define a cop, what is a cop? Like a police officer, like what is their job? And try not to be angry with me. Understand that
not at all.
I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with here. And we're just like, well, I mean, the police just like, they give out tickets, speeding tickets, or, they just kind of do what they do. Like, in your opinion, what is a cop? Or if you have a more elaborate, description.
No, not at all. I don't have a problem with that. No, I would say cops, in my opinion, they serve the ruling class. Their job is not to serve me. I think their job is to serve the elite, so solve people with money, resolve class. So, and it still goes back to the history, because when I was a kid, I used to think what most people think now, that cops serve me. Cops serve the working class.
They're like they're protecting you as the working class.
Right. I used to think that when I was a kid, but as I got older, my opinion of cops changed due to my interaction with cops. So that my talking points are not like other people's talking points. Because I know black people, personally, I know black people who have that same opinion. They don't believe the whole like cops are like the enemy and cops help the ruling class, because they come not to be mean, but they can actually come for money. And so because they've never dealt with I dealt with, there's a disconnect. Because I don't think it's just a racial thing. I also think it's a financial thing. Because I actually do have friends who are black who come from, I don't want to say they come from wealth, but they come from some sort of privilege where they never was stopped by a cop and was harassed by a cop. So they're not going to have that perspective.
Right.
They're not saying they're not going to disagree that there's not a problem, but they're going to not come at from an angle that says that, oh, cops are not their ally, because they believe that, because based on their circumstance. So it is a financial thing, because cops, and even to some degree in this neighborhood, I live in Jackson. I'm saying what Jackson has with my aunt. cops here are relatively okay. They say good morning to you, and I'm not used to that. I'm not used to that. Right. I'm not used to a cop saying good morning to me when they walk down the street, because this neighborhood and where she lives is a little well-to-do. So in their mind, well, you're coming out of this building, because this building here is, has a wealth. Because my aunt, she worked for the Social Security office for years, so she can afford the building she's staying in because she works in Social Security for several years. And so they see that, they assume, oh, you come for money. Let me not bother him. Good morning. So that is association there. Let me not bother him because I don't know who he knows. And so we have to know that's what they're thinking. We have to be honest about that. That is a thing. That let me not touch the wrong buttons because I don't know who he knows. That building has people that live there that are important. So let me say good morning to this gentleman. Right. You know what I mean? So they do respect the purse string. That is a thing. And people need to realize that that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. That is a fact.
I don't know which one of your children is in the background there, but you got to bring them on. And they're like, yeah, I want to be on the camera, man. Dad's on the camera, man. But I guess I mean, we all want a resolution. That's a bad term because it's a political term, but we all want some kind to like finish this all off, but I don't know if there's a way. I really don't, man.
No, I think so. It is. I mean, not to sound like an optimist, not to sound optimistic.
No, be optimistic, man. That's the only reason I'm alive. Is because I was optimistic.
No, because a lot of my friends feel like there's nothing you can do about the cops. I said, no, slow your brakes. Slow your brakes. Slow your brakes. No. There is a solution, and it is a way to solve the problem. I just don't believe that they'll do it. And again, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything. All this is just saying is all about the hiring process. I really believe that this really comes down to the hiring process. I think if we just do two things, just allow the community to vote in, and I'm not saying I'm just saying have these committees. I do believe in committees. I do believe that if you allow people to vote in who can be a cop and be part of the hiring and firing process, and just allowing cops to come from their own community, police their own community, I really think that it does solve the problem. I don't think it's complicated as everyone makes it out being the news. Right? That's why I don't watch the news anymore, because it's very confusing. It's very nuanced. No, it isn't. It really isn't. It's not complicated.
I mean, yeah, maybe from your perspective, but from my perspective, it seems complicated. And then when I tell my friends I want to have a cop on the show, and they're like, you're racist. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just want to hear what a cop has to say. Not to be rude to your friends, but I think that's completely short-sighted and ignorant. I completely think that. I think that's the wrong way to have it. I think it's a wrong attitude. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I really
appreciate that. Because
I say the same to my friends, because my friends think that there's nothing we can do about it. I was like, you got to stop thinking that way. That's not true.
Right. There is something you can do about it. And when somebody says, hey, man, you're going to die from brain cancer. And I'm like, no, I don't think I am. And so then I know I've said that a million times in this conversation, but anyway, I like, shining my light, whatever. But I'm like, maybe we just need to engage with the cops instead of fighting them.
Absolutely.
And give them a hug and just say, hey, man, I just want to know, like, do you hate fucking black people or Hispanic people or whatever? Like, let them, or faggots like me, go ahead, have at it. And if they're not willing to engage, fine. But if they are, which I think Detective McGrath would be willing to do, I'd be like, all right, so how do we work this out so we can just all get along? Because it's crazy.
No, and again, I don't think that's like a fool's errand. I really feel that, I even may sound like a broken record too. But I really feel that.
No, you're rocking it, man. You're
the part of the solution is just being engaged with cops. Seriously. Just being part of the process, just working with law enforcement in the community. And I think that being involved with them and being part of the process of like, okay, let's talk to, let's say, the police community or whatever. Let's say this for the argument, say that's the name of the group, and say like we can't hire this cop because the community hasn't talked to us yet. That to me alone just solves the issue. I really feel that being engaged with cops, being engaged with law enforcement, being part of that process, I really solves 90% of the problems.
Right.
I really feel it's like 90% of the problems will just disappear.
I agree.
Yeah.
With you and other than that, my ex-boyfriend broke up with me, but it's just like I'm like, really? I mean, I think engaging is the best thing we can do. Like, I mean, if we just all sit back and bitch about life, then what good is that? So do you have like, let's close it off. Do you have a final statement?
Yeah.
People, or something you want to say?
In regards to
you've said a lot.
In regards to cops, or in regards to what we were talking about earlier?
Anything, man. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I feel that people in general, we have a lot more power than we actually believe we do. And I just think that the reason why the working class is not successful is due to two reasons. One is fear, and two is knowledge. Because I think people who are not knowledgeable about the fact that we actually can do stuff, they don't do it because they don't know it. They don't know they can. And I think other people who are knowledgeable, they know they can, they're afraid.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, and I think the other third reason might be a little bit of both. Because I just feel that revolution comes in depth. And I think once you start to understand that, on a knowledgeable side, who people are knowledgeable, they don't want to do it because they know that death is more inevitable. Because I think that if you look at JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Gandhi, they had revolution, but they had to die to make sure it happened. And I think that in order for us to get what we want, death has to happen. When you say that to people, they look at you like you're crazy. And I said, well, look at George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. They died. They're not here anymore. You know what I mean? They're part of the revolution, whether they know it or not. And that goes. Look how many millions of Americans who died of COVID. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you put that into context, if we actually had a national healthcare system where those people have died, maybe not. We don't know that though. The problem is that the healthcare revolution, we're part of it, whether we want to know it or not. And more people are going to die. And saying it out loud just sounds awful, but it's true. More people are going to die between now and the end of the year if we don't get healthcare. So this push, you have to push forward. That's the whole argument. The argument is that we have to push forward. We have to know we can push forward. Don't be afraid to push forward. And I think the reason why we don't have it, whether we get it later on or not, it's irrelevant. I just think that we just need to know that we have to push forward. People are scared. And I just think that people are scared and people are not knowledgeable. I think it's both. I think it's both those two things, because it's not just both. It's not just one or the other. I think it's both and a little bit of everything. I think that people need to know that they can do enough. And I do think some people just don't care because they feel like, hey, I just have money, or hey, there's nothing you can do about it. But I just think that people need to be more vocal. People got to get big mad at something that me and Ricky says a lot when we're in the street. I said, don't get mad, get big mad. Let them know.
Right.
Let them know.
Well, I think it's time to get mad, right. But I also feel like, a running theme in our conversation has been we need a leader. And like, why aren't you the leader? Why don't you step up and be the leader? And you know why? Because all these motherfuckers get killed. They do, as you said. And me personally, I don't mind. As weird as this may sound, I told my friend Roman this too. I said, if I was as knowledgeable and as charismatic as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, I'll definitely be the leader. I will have no problem to die for the cause. As weird as that sounds, it's like, I'm martyring myself in a weird way, but I wouldn't have a problem. I know that I don't have 11 million Twitter followers. If I did, I would do it. I wouldn't have no problem doing it. I just don't have the influence where it would matter. You see what I'm saying? If I died tomorrow from lack of healthcare, it'd just be another story. Right. But if I was someone important, it wouldn't be another story. It'd be a symbol. And that's what you need. You need a symbol. You need someone
who's in the trenches, who's a symbol. You don't need to know the body, you know the symbol. And that's the problem. We respond to symbols. Everything about America is about symbolism. You need a symbol. You need someone to be the symbol. And if you don't have it, it doesn't matter. And this is what I was saying about, and I understand, I forgot, I'm having a brain fart. She was just here. Nicole. I forgot her name for a second. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I understand her point about not getting in the street, but I disagree with that wholeheartedly because people respond to fire. People don't respond to videos. I'm not saying me asking for a video is adding to everything there. It's not one or the other. I don't think we should just have the video in response to not having a march. I feel everything needs to happen, and I think that adds on to everything. I would never say just do a march. I think you should have a march. We should do sit-ins. We should have protests. We should write letters. We should do this. We should do this. We should do everything in the kitchen book. Leave no stone unturned because people respond to fire. People don't respond to water. People respond to fire. So if you gotta amplify and enrage it because eventually we'll get it, sure, but we want it sooner than later.
Right.
That's just my takeaway from that. You know what I mean? I just feel like for those of us who can't be there, obviously we don't want you to be in the street. Obviously, I don't want my aunt out there. You know, I want her out there. I want people who can't be out there. Don't be out there. But for those who can, I want them out there. You know what I mean?
Well, if you're not going to be the leader, I agree with you on all that. But if you're not going to be the leader, then who would you vote? Like if you had to make a vote, you know, who would you want to lead the movement? Like who would that be? Who is that? If it's not you, which right. I think you could be, but anyway.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Seriously, I really do appreciate that. There's a list of people that I would like who could be the leader, but I don't know if they would want to do it. I think Cornel West could do it.
Yeah, Cornel, definitely.
Richard Wolff could do it. Chris Hedges could do it. Jimmy Dore could do it. Nick Brana could do it. Brianna Joy Gray could do it. Lee Camp could do it. Killer Mike could do it. He's a rapper. He could do it. Justin Jackson could do it.
Right.
Chris Small could do it.
Right. So if like, you know, tomorrow, you know, or whatever, within the next week or month, you had 11 million followers and people are like, all right, you know.
I lost you. Hang on a second. I lost you for a second.
All right.
Repeat that again.
Are we there?
No, I got you now.
Okay. If tomorrow or in the next week or the next month or whatever, you had 11 million followers and we're like, Shareef, man, you lead us. I mean, would you do it? Or is
yes. No, I would definitely do it. And I'll write a will. Okay. I would have a will already because I promise you, I'm not surviving. I'm dying.
Okay.
All right.
That's sad, but I understand.
Yeah. Because I don't think that without more people dying. And if I'm speaking truth to power and I'm coming after the oligarchs, I'm coming after the big pharma. You know, think how much money they make a year. Big pharma is $1 trillion empire.
Right.
Think about, say it out loud. We're actually trying to take out the empire, that particular empire. You don't think they're gonna murder someone or come after someone who's trying to take away that money train? That's not possible. They're gonna hurt someone. They're gonna come after some people.
It's a to put it lightly, it's a drag that you have to think that way. But I understand what you're saying. But it's a drag. Right. And I know that's a light way of putting it, but like, really? Oh man, that's a fucking drag. Like,
right.
That, you know, my friends, like you said, your aunt or I can't remember your aunt or your mom or something has lupus.
Yeah, my mom has lupus. My mom she gets out and about. It's just that she doesn't have anything that's causing her, technically speaking, to leave the house because she still works. It's just obviously her health insurance is just so obviously like everyone else is so expensive. That's why she doesn't mind talking about it. But my aunt, you know, she can't, you know, she has worse conditions than my mom. She can't be out there in the street like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, for people like her, that's why one of the reasons why me and my girlfriend were over here. She can't be out there like that. I wouldn't want her out there. That'd be ridiculous.
So let's seriously, man, my conditions with my neighbor here and the death. So I need to just do some hugging. So I would just like to be positive. What's the positive moving forward? We have healthcare for all. Everybody's okay. Your aunt, your mom, my sister, your mom has lupus, my sister with lupus, and my friend has diabetes, and Nicole with her situation. Like, let's just give everybody love and everything's okay. I mean, I don't know. Is there positivity that we can put out there or not?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think this fight is negative, because I speak to a lot of negative people in regards to this, and I'm bulletproof to this because history makes me optimistic. I think if I didn't have a sense of history, I don't think I would be optimistic. I think I'm probably negative too. Not to say their truth or their history is false. I just don't believe that if we are serious about pushing forward, I don't think we can lose. That's just my personal opinion about it. I think that women's suffrage happened for a reason. Civil rights happened for a reason. The New Deal happened for a reason. These events happen because people literally risked their lives and died, obviously, to make sure it happened.
And they had a positive outlook
about it, right?
They were like, we are going to be able to vote. We are going to be able to have civil rights. And for me, the gay movement was a big deal.
Absolutely.
I knew Israel Fishman was a part of that movement. I knew him. What was that back in the 60s? I can't remember the name of it all of a sudden. But it was all about, we can make this happen. And I think sometimes
all right, be good, guys.
Give me a kiss.
All right. Kiss.
All right, there we go.
Right.
There's some kid love. All right, that's good.
All right.
Daddy's doing something very important, man.
Right. They're going to their friend's house. My son's birthday. My son turned 4 yesterday. He's going to a friend in the Harlem friend house to play games. And stuff.
Is that safe or what?
No, they're fine. Yeah, they go to school anyway. Unfortunately, they do Zoom sometimes, but they go to school. Yeah. So unfortunately, we have to, because if mom and dad doesn't go I'm out of work, but my girlfriend, she goes to work. I mean, if she wasn't working, I don't think we would be able to be surviving, because she works at Amazon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little fucking crazy over here too with the work thing. But I mean, you're not the first person on, I'm going to say this podcast, to talk about I haven't worked in a year.
Right.
It's like, it's not unusual. But I think that all these people, with their positivity and, wanting to change the way things are, we have to. And I don't know what else to say.
It's hard to see things that's not in front of your face, because you're talking about taking down an empire. And when you talk about that,
right? Yeah,
and you don't have any money, you don't have any resources. Who are you? And so the idea it comes across as naive.
You're fucking paralyzed, basically.
Right. It comes across as naive and ignorant to a lot of people. How are you gonna do that? You know what I mean? How you gonna do the attitude is like very dismissive. How are you gonna do that?
Yeah,
that's the attitude.
That's true. That's true.
And so you have to be bulletproof to that. You have to know history and say, come back to them with information. Like, well, how did FDR do the New Deal? How did women's suffrage come about? How did civil rights come about? Rosa Parks didn't say, this is not possible. She sat in the back of the bus. She sat in front of the bus for a reason, because she had influence. You know what I'm saying? She had the influence for when that happened. That would spark something. Because the March on Washington, when Dr. King was there, that didn't automatically just end civil rights. But that was like the push they needed to amplify it. You know what I mean? All these different things, all these little ingredients is going to make the soup, to use a food analogy. You need all these little things to build up to that, that great dish. And I think that by eliminating one of them, or like not being positive, because we're talking about positivity, that ruins the dish. You need to be positive. That's going to work out. And you need to keep pushing. But I think most people had this attitude like that it would have happened already if that was going to be. And I think that the ruling class is successful because Americans are apathetic and Americans are ill-informed.
Right. And
yeah.
We don't. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Man, I mean, thank you for talking to me, and and I just was curious, in double conclusion, because we already concluded, like, is you want to say goodbye, like, or let people know? Can we direct people? Can you send me a link to a website or something that people can find what you're talking about? Do you have a website yourself, or?
I just started a Twitter page. I mean, a Twitter handler, just for Forced to Vote and just for like Medicare for All, and just I've been linking and connecting with people. So, I have an email. People can email me at snuglife@fastmail.com. That's kind of like I use that for like kind of activist work. So I just have an account just for that. So if anyone is engaging in like in protests, anything with activism, I have that. So that's Snuglife, all one word, at fastmail.com. And then I have my Twitter handler is at IM4M4A. So I am for Medicare for All. That's my Twitter handler.
Okay.
So people are gonna tweet out to me there, and I just basically I use that handler just for Medicare for All and just for like anything to do with their health, and just people just understanding why we don't have healthcare and how they push for healthcare. And I just think that ultimately, I hope that this is a great unveiling on great unmasking that we need to have a true democratic society, because we don't. Something I've been trying to get my friends of mine to realize, like, you ever wondered how you can vote for your president, but you can't vote for your manager?
Right.
That should just tell you where true power is. The power is not with your president. The power is with corporations. If you're allowed to vote for a president, but you're not allowed to vote for a manager at Walmart, that should tell you who has real control. Simple as that. It's just simple. How do you allow us to vote for the most powerful position on earth, supposedly, and you can't even vote for like some lame-o at Walmart or like Burger King or McDonald's or anything like that? So just tell you where the priorities are. Let's just tell you not where the priorities are is with the ruling class, is with the corporate elite. They don't want you part of that process. They don't want you to be part of the democratic process in the workforce. You can't be a democratic society if you're not allowed to be democratic everywhere. It just shows you that's a sham. It's a failed system. It doesn't work. So, and as you get older, you kind of realize that. You kind of understand that there's something wrong here. Something don't feel right. And that's something that I think most people should take away from that.
Absolutely love you, and I hope people connect, and whatever. I love you, man. I love you. I don't know. It sounds weird, too, but I love you.
No, not at all. No, it's not weird. No, it's not weird. When people build, because we're building. When people are building and working together, it's just love. It's beautiful. No, right. I love that, and I'm 1,000% in. I'm really excited about this. This is amazing. That's probably the best news of 2021. It's awesome.
Good, man. All right. Love you, and have a great day and night and everything, and take care of your family and everything. And I'm sorry your wife is annoyed, but it's beautiful. It happens. We get annoyed.
Yes, they definitely do.
All right, brother. Man, love you, man.
Love you too.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Definitely will.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Constant Constance. Tune in every week for new conversations. And if you want even more, check out Andrew's Patreon for more exclusive content and additional conversations. Hosted and produced by Andrew D'Angelo. Edited and mixed by Lucy Little. Original music by Andrew D'Angelo and Maximilian Moore D'Angelo. Intro is Henrietta Weeks. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You fucking rocked it. Like she doesn't know she says podcast, right? Like she doesn't even